In the first video of this series, we promised to give you free access to the full electronic fundamentals section of our course, and we've delivered. With the last 12 videos, you've gained the core knowledge you need to tackle your own flight computer designs. Now, this video marks the end of the electronics series here on YouTube, and will be an overview of what a typical flight computer system might look like. Further, it will give you an impression of what will be covered in the full course. Let's look at what a typical flight computer system might look like. Here's an overview of a single microcontroller flight computer system. We have used systems like these for over 5 years and have only recently switched to a multiple microcontroller design. As you can see, we can divide a flight computer into many subunits, each with its own responsibility. Some subunits are always required, while others can be optional. In the following chapters of this electronics course, we will focus on each aspect of a flight computer one by one. For now, let's get a brief overview of all the subsections that make up a flight computer design. An on-all-board required subsection is the power management unit, as all components and ICs need power to function. Essentially, the power management unit handles everything that is involved in delivering the right amount of voltage and current to your electronic components. In a chapter about power management, you will explore several key topics. First, we will cover fundamental concepts such as oxidation and reduction, noble metals, and the galvanic series to explain the simplest form of a battery, the zinc copper voltaic cell. Additionally, we'll discuss discharge and recharge processes to provide a comprehensive understanding of how these cells function. Building on that foundation, you'll learn about different battery types, including Li-ion, LiPo, and nickel metal hydride battery types. We'll also address important factors for battery selection such as capacity, cell number, C rating, and connectors. Moving forward, we'll examine various types of regulators, including shunt regulators, linear regulators, and switching regulators. Understanding these will help you select the correct regulator type and implement it accordingly. Finally, we will look at the implementation of the LM2596, a specific switching regulator. The next subsection is the microcontroller. We can think of a microcontroller as a mini computer. It is a single package integrated circuit with one or more CPU cores with memory and programmable input-output peripherals. The input-output peripherals allow us to read out sensor data and to control outputs. Microcontrollers feature many pins around the package. Some pins power the microcontroller, some provide accurate timing signals, and others are GPIO general purpose input-output pins. In a chapter about microcontrollers, we will delve into the following key topics. To begin, we'll cover the microcontroller's different pin types, including GPIO pins, analog input, analog output, and PWM pins. We will also discuss pull-up and pull-down resistors, which play a crucial role in signal stability. Moving forward, we'll explore the clock generator. You will learn about clock speeds, interrupts, and sleep modes, which are essential for managing the microcontroller's performance and power consumption. Next, we'll provide an overview of bus protocols such as I2C, SPI, and UART. Understanding these protocols will help you interface the microcontroller with other components and devices. Additionally, we'll examine different types of memory, including flash, EEPROM, and RAM. We'll also discuss how microcontrollers are interfaced for programming. Finally, we'll explore 3 levels of microcontroller implementation. We'll start with the implementation of a complete microcontroller, the TNC 4.1, onto our flight computer. Next, we'll look at the incorporation of a microcontroller module, the ESP32. Lastly, we will examine the industry standard STM32, offering insights into how to implement bare-bone microcontrollers. The next subsection, the sensors. Sensors are the sensory organs of our flight computer. They can determine our rocket's orientation, acceleration, velocity, position, and altitude. There are many more sensors we could add to our flight computer to determine properties such as the temperature, the humidity, voltage or current, radiation, light and infrared wavelengths, as well as the gas compositions. In the chapter about sensors, we'll explore first the gyroscope, including its functional principle, how it determines orientation, key parameters for selection, and the importance of calibration. Next, we will move on to the accelerometer. Similar to the gyroscope, we will cover its operational principles and key considerations for use. Following that, we will examine the implementation of the BMI 088 into our flight computer, which combines both a gyroscope and accelerometer into a single package. Then, we will delve into barometers, specifically studying the BMP 388 and focusing on concepts like oversampling and the EER filter. Afterward, we will explore the voltmeter and its application in our flight computer. Finally, we will consider additional sensors. This lecture includes other helpful sensors such as the magnetometer, GNSS receiver and more. The flight computer's outputs are like the limbs or muscles of our body. With them, we can intervene in our environment. For model rocketry, we can subdivide them into the flight data storage, indicators, pyrochannels and actuators. These outputs are controlled by the microcontroller. The instructions of when the microcontroller should control which outputs are set in the program we upload. Most of the decisions will be based on the sensory readings. In the chapter on outputs, we will first explore the flight data storage. After performing model rocket flights, we want to be able to analyze them to identify potential problems or assess the rocket's performance. To do so, we must access the flight sensor data and the microcontroller's decisions. Currently, all flight data is lost immediately, so we must store our flight data. In this lecture, we will focus on SD cards and flash memory chips, as well as the implementation. Next, we'll move on to indicators. These visually or acoustically represent flight states or current errors to the user. We'll focus on LEDs, RGB LEDs, driver ICs, buzzers, speakers and even amplifiers. Following that, we'll delve into pyrochannels. Pyrochannels are needed to ignite model rocket engines and to trigger heating wires. With heating wires, we can control various mechanisms such as landing legs, air brakes and the deployment of our parachute. In this lecture, we will focus on the basic pyrochannel design, as well as add-ons that can improve its functionality. Finally, we will consider actuators, specifically the servo motor needed to steer our thrust vector control system, and we will revise PWM. Another way of communicating with the user is by the means of telemetry. Telemetry is the transmission of data through the air. The transmission can occur in both ways. So the rocket could send us live flight data such as altitude and orientation, while we could send the rocket commands to change the flight settings, initiate the countdown or abort mid-flight. There are many ways of making such communication possible, such as through Bluetooth, Wi-Fi and radio communication. So in summary, we can divide every flight computer system into subunits that must perform certain tasks. The flight computer must regulate the input voltage in the power management unit to supply all the other subunits with power. The microcontroller is a mini computer featuring input-output peripherals which we can program to communicate with sensors and control outputs. Sensors are our sensory organs with which the rocket knows its current state or with which it can record valuable scientific data. Outputs are similar to our muscles with which we can intervene in our environment. And finally, telemetry enables us to control our flight computer from afar and receive valuable information mid-flight. I hope you found this series helpful and that it gave you some valuable insights to take your projects to the next level. But this is just the beginning of what's possible for your flight computer designs. We've covered a lot and I'm excited to see where your ideas take you from here. With the series coming to a close, I'm excited to share that there is a 5-day massive discount. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned because we are back with rocket development content that's coming very soon. I'll see you in the next video.